Hello, John Emmett's back home in the UK. Ted Ryman down in Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa. Ed Worley's checked in down in SoCal. Greg Phillips from the Gold Coast of Australia. Hello, Greg. Gordon Smith is saying, hi, good evening, everyone from Denmark, where he normally is when we go live on Tuesdays and Fridays. Welcome, everybody. Got a terrific show today, a terrific guest. Carlos Aviz checking in from Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. Clayton Embley in Bourbon Country. Hello, Clayton. Chris Dewar, been too long. Yeah, Chris, nice to have you back on. Alan Long is in Manhattan Beach, California, down there by LAX. And Steve Atkins, first name storm, brought us 4 inches of snow in Connecticut. Chris Exley, greetings from sloppy Salem, Massachusetts, where they must have some of the same storm. Welcome, everybody. Let's get this show off the dock.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, we got to hustle because our guest, our esteemed guest, Olivia Price, who's standing patiently by down in Sydney. We're going to get to her because she's racing in a regatta and she's training for the Olympics and training for this new America's Cup Women's America's Cup event. We want to get her off the dock as well. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for show number 596. We got a lot on. And a cool, interesting show. Let's get to the through the pre-start quickly, because again, Olivia's got to dock out for her purposes down there. I've got again the COVID word is before we get to CARD. No, well, I just say we're going to cover the CARD situation later in the show in deference to Olivia, who's got to get out on the water in Sydney. We're going to talk about Paul's separation from U.S. sailing. By the way, one hears 3 other key members of the U.S. Olympic sailing program have resigned as of just before we went to air. Paul Kayard out as head of U.S. sailing. While we were on the air on Friday, I couldn't report it. We'll talk about that later. This big news coming out of the U.S., as we probably, many of you suspected, certainly I did, Julie did, this lab leak. Wuhan Institute of Virology, as somebody said, if you have all of a sudden discovered chocolate in Hershey's, Pennsylvania, it's probably come from the Hershey's factory, not from, something else. Update on Julia. She's not here again today. She's doing okay. She's gone through her Paxlovid and her course, a 5-day course, and she seems to be doing okay. Still tested positive last night, so she stayed upstairs here in the Commodore's suite rather than coming down to do the show. That's the good news. Bad news is my beloved mother, who's probably watching in Ann Arbor, Michigan. She tested positive yesterday. We got her some Paxlovid. She is now on day 1 of her Paxlovid course, but we're giving her all warm wishes too and best wishes because she's got the bloody COVID, as I know a few others of you do as well. Some of you for the second time. Those of you in Northern Europe, since our last show, you've been having the Aurora Borealis, fabulous northern lights, cool stuff, and people sending me pictures, including this one taken without a filter last night. Never seen anything like it. This up in Norway, I believe. Speaking of Scandinavia, do you know what day today is? A traditional Norwegian stew called lapskaus is your first and really only clue, lapskaus. But it's today it's celebrated in, do you know where that is? If Julie were here, she would know. That's in Liverpool. And you Liverpudlians are celebrating. In fact, it's global. There's your next clue. It's global lapskaus or scouse day. Scouse is a type of stew typically made from chunks of meat, usually beef or lamb, with potatoes, carrots, and onions. It is particularly associated with the port of Liverpool, which is why the inhabitants of that city are often referred to, as is their lingo, as scousers. The word comes, it's better than hosers, I guess. The word comes from lobscouse, a stew commonly eaten by sailors throughout Northern Europe in the past and surviving in different forms there today. So we're going to have a little bit of that. Here's a quick video about that.
This hearty meat and vegetable stew is a food staple in Liverpool.
Skouser.
Many people believe it's either based off an Irish stew or a Norwegian dish called lapkaus. Regardless of its origin, scouse became a favourite of local sailors in Liverpool and today can be found in numerous pubs, cafes throughout the city.
Looks like Irish stew to me, but I'd never heard of this, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to have some tonight. We're going to make some up. Happy Global Scouse Day. Today, it's always the 28th of February, the last day, except when it's a leap year. Hard to believe it's the last day of Feb. Okay, we've got Olivia on here, and we're putting her right up at the top of the show because, as I said, she's got to go out and sail in a regatta. She's training in the 49er for the Olympics as well as doing the America's Cup Women's Series. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here.
Really nice to have you. You're in Sydney. You're at I know you're a member of, and you worked at the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. But just before we get into your segment, a sad passing this week, a few days ago, of the esteemed, the tough, hard-nosed, terrific, good friend of mine, Sid Fisher, and the Ragamuffin Man, and he passed away at age 95, born in 27, passed away a few days ago. The sailing legend, Sid Fisher, and we will do on either Friday's show or next Tuesday's show, because I've got a special guest two guests next Tuesday who knew him well, sailed with him, and we'll probably talk more about him a week from today. Olivia, did you know Sid? Did you ever sail with him?
Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to sail with him, but working through the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, I had a bit to do with him in the media team for the Rolex Sydney Hobart. An enormous loss for Australian sailing and the sailing community in general. Sid was a very generous man and obviously had an esteemed sailing career, only one to be aspired to. So it is a big loss, and sending thoughts and love to all his family and friends that in this troubling time. Yeah,
well, Sid Fisher, age 95, passed away a few days ago. He was so nice to me over the years. 1927 to 2023, may he rest in peace. And indeed, next Tuesday, one of you just said, Steve Gruber's asking, is the Rat coming on? Yeah, Ratty is coming on. And I hope Katie Pettibone is also coming on with him. We're going to get an update on his injury during Sydney Hobart and the life and times of Sid, with whom he sailed. Let's get on with Olivia. It's Bravo Zulu to her. Fantastic career she's already had. She was one of the youngest Olympic sailors ever, maybe the youngest ever from Oz. And I'm just going to whip through a few slides here quickly because we want to then get to her to update us on both her campaign for the America's Cup, the Women's America's Cup, as well as her Olympic campaign. Her family are all Fozy. Harry, I've gotten to know through GovCup. Olivia, of course. Christian, and my graphics department. That's David, of course. Pricey Price. They were on the show. The family Price were on the show in July of 2019 on show number 199, which is fully 400, almost 400 shows ago. They were in Marstrand, Sweden, sailing in a match racing event. Both David was Harry was sailing an event, as well as Olivia. And then there was that. Remember, we were talking the other day with James Pleasance of the World Match Racing Tour. We were talking about the mixed match racing event that's was going on in Marstrand. It was quite popular, and we're not sure if it's still going on. Olivia, these were the ladies sailing with you then. Any of them still sailing with you in these next campaigns?
Unfortunately, not at the moment, but they're a fantastic group of ladies. Emily Nagel in the middle, commentating for Sail GP, and Jess, Hannah, and Haley all doing their own thing at the moment. But it was a great event. I remember that so vividly. And your brother sailed as well. There's Harry on the right, and I'm proud to say, as I told you in the tech check, I think I'm the only person that's ever gotten more than one or two words out of Harry. Andy Rose famously couldn't ever get more than one-word responses from him at the GovCup. I love your whole family, and your brother is so cool. Give him my regards, please, because he's a hell of a good sailor. Yeah, absolutely. I think, he and I get along really well. We are very different, but I guess that's what makes it all work. Do you have any other siblings? No, just the two of us. I'm older, 3 years older than Harry, but he's done the last few years of traveling in the match racing and yeah, I had my time just a little bit before, had a few years off, and now back bigger than ever.
Who's the better sailor, you or Harry?
I think we haven't actually competed against each other for a long time, so maybe there's something on the cards there.
Well, let's go to the Olympics 2012, where you won a silver medal. Were you the youngest Olympian, sailing Olympian?
Yeah, the youngest sailing Olympian. I turned 20 at the games.
Wow. Well, do you remember this video? I dug this video up on YouTube. Just before the games. Let's have a quick look.
It is just a childhood dream. It's something I guess I've always wanted to do, but to have it become so realistic is something that I really can't describe at the moment. I'm super excited.
This will be your first games. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm actually looking forward to competing. It's something we've been working towards for 4 years now, and I just want to show everyone.
Okay, because you're in a hurry to get on the water, I won't run the whole video, but that was just before the games, as the youngster you were, and then this was what many described as the most exciting Olympic event of any type they've ever seen. And this is often discussed here on our show. This is the pre-start of the finals of the women's match racing 2012 in Weymouth. You're there on the left against the Spanish in the dial-up. A lot of breeze, a lot of lump, Olivia.
Yeah, it was lots going on that day. I think, the end of a big 14-day event. Wow, yeah. I still get goosebumps watching this sort of stuff. It was, looking back at that first video, the sailing was the best part of it. I really enjoyed the actual competition. It was, everyone had their best on show. And yeah, as you can see, plenty of technique and skill going into this dial-up, trying to get the Spanish off our hip. Big backups there. But,
retrograde motion. Who were you sailing? Who's the Spanish team you were racing against?
Tamara Echegoyen is the skipper, and actually still racing against her at the moment. She's in the 49er FX, gone to 3 Olympics in total. Obviously gold in London, and then went on to Rio and Tokyo in the 49er FX. So it's kind of cool to be back racing against everyone again. Class changes, crew changes, all of the above, and still as much fun as ever.
Because you took 2016 and 2020 off, right?
Yeah, tried to compete in the Rio 2016 Olympics, but didn't get selected for that, unfortunately. So then I ended up taking a few years off, actually 5, throughout that COVID and Tokyo period, and only recently in the last 18 months jumped back in a boat competitively. So actually loving it way more than I have ever. Different perspective on things, and I guess being a little bit older now, 10 to 12 years older, it's a different challenge for me to be able to help some of the young guns coming through and be part of a really awesome squad.
Well, it was great racing, and it was in front of this huge crowd there in Weymouth on the hill. And as I said, any number of people on this show, we talk about this whenever our attention turns to the Olympics. And one of our FOSI sent me this note this morning. He said, "Hi, Tom, is the woman on your post last night on my Facebook page, is that Olivia Price?" And I said, yes, and she is my guest on, I guess this was our text back and forth last night, and yes, she is my guest on tomorrow's show, today's show, Tuesday. I will be sure to tune in. He said the 2012 Olympic gold medal race between Australia and Spain was thrilling. And thank you for getting back to me. And that's from our FOSI, Jeff Holder, who is here in the Bay Area. I didn't realize Jeff lived here in the Bay Area, but I should have. And thank you, Jeff, for that. And your Olympic team got a silver medal in the Games 2012 Weymouth. And Nina is with you again, right?
Yeah, rekindling the love. Nina, Lucinda and I had a fantastic time in the match racing, and obviously I'm biased because match racing is super exciting to watch. But now, new things come, and Nina and I have rejoined together to be part of the Australian Women's Challenge for the 2024 Barcelona Women's America's Cup. So it's pretty exciting to, kind of bring Nina and I together back again, but also to inspire some of the younger sailors and keep going. So, I guess, there's so much to come in the next 18 months.
Well, I would normally go into the comments because we're getting so many comments already, but let me carry on here with the slides because, again, you've got to get off the dock. But your press release, we ran this in part on Friday, on Friday's show, Australian Women's Challenge. It's caused a lot of interest in Australia and beyond. But your Australian Women's Challenge launched for an inaugural Women's America's Cup. I compliment Grant Dalton for making this happen in the one designed in the AC40s. Terrific stuff. CYCA member Olivia Price and Nina Curtis will lead the Australian Challenge for the inaugural Women's America's Cup in 2024 in Barcelona. The Australian Women's Challenge was announced on the 23rd of February, so just 5 days ago, with Olympic silver medalists Price and Curtis leading the team to compete at the 37th America's Cup in Barcelona. Price and Curtis have opened expressions of interest and trials to recruit American female sailors to race in the AC-40 foiling yacht, which will be used in Barcelona. And then you have a quote here about how the Cup is the pinnacle of our sport for women to at least be invited to compete in history, making a watershed moment we had only dreamt of. Another quote goes on from you. Tell us about your campaign chairman here in the middle, Anik Donat.
Yeah. Anik is incredible. You know, she came to me a couple of months ago with the passion to basically inspire a whole bunch of female sailors. Now, she's not a sailor herself, but what she is an extremely passionate woman and is an absolute go-getter. So I'm so excited to be able to work with her and Nina and the rest of the team to be able to, I guess, get on the water. And that's what Anik always says is the aim is to get us on the water as quickly as possible and in the best shape as possible so that we can win and really give this a red hot go. So incredibly grateful to have such a cool team and passionate team behind us, almost as passionate as Nina and I. But yeah, I think it's super exciting opportunity for Australia to have another go at the Cup, and especially the first one of the women's. You know, we couldn't be more excited.
A quick question, and a lot of questions coming from the Fozy on the comments. Can you say approximately how much you have to raise, and how is it going to be corporate, private? How are you going to do it?
Our budget is still being all finalised. We do have, you know, some draft versions of our budget. It is going to be private commercial funding. So we are on the lookout as of this week. Now we finally launched to be able to bring in some sponsors and corporate minds that want to help promote female sailing, as well as, you know, the youth pathway as well. It's something that Nina and I are extremely passionate about. In my 5 years of sport, I was pretty passionate about getting all the youth sailors involved and giving girls the opportunity to sail that might not do otherwise. So expanding the sport is a pretty key aim for us. So hopefully we find you know, a range of companies. We've got 3 tiers of sponsorship, including naming rights and then various other ones from there, to be able to be involved and jump on board this groundbreaking and history-making expedition.
And about the Women's America's Cup, only 12 national teams will be scheduled to compete in Barcelona. Canada, the Netherlands, and Spain have already been announced to date, have already been announced to join the existing 6 America's Cup teams, sending women's squads: New Zealand, Great Britain, Italy, USA, France, and Switzerland. So that's 9 teams. Is that 9 teams or 10 teams? That's 10 teams.
I believe the Swedish have also been invited. We've put all of our documentation in, and yeah, we've done everything that we can, and now, yeah, we just keep pushing forward.
The boat, where does the boat come from?
So the boats are actually provided during the regatta and during the Cup. So there's various simulator and other foiling platforms that we're looking at in the short term to be able to get on the water as quickly as possible. And so, you know, we're not actually looking at purchasing a boat, but there's, you know, various charters and things like that that'll be available further down the track. Cool.
Nice. Okay, a couple of more slides. Again, I'm going to skip over these. You know this, but just to say what an impressive CV, as you would say, resume, as we would say, your sailing resume. By the way, you're a hell of a lot more fun to interview than your brother.
As I said at the beginning, we are very different.
But both you and Nina have very impressive credentials. She's done a lot of offshore sailing. I mean, she was on Team Brunel in the 17-18 Volvo race.
Yeah, she jumped in without, you know, too much going on as well. She joined, I think, about a quarter of the way through or halfway through, and they went on to win third. So I know I definitely couldn't be able to do that. So hats off to Nina for claiming third with Team Brunel.
And I love this shot on your website. this is all of your, I guess it's yours and Nina's kind of a composite of your various accomplishments in the sport, including Nina's been with Sail GP. Is that correct?
Yeah, Nina was the first female sailor in Sail GP to win an event and then also win the season. So Nina is an integral part of that team for Sail GP Australia, and obviously was one of the first in the women's pathway program and for Sail GP. So yeah, she's gone on to do incredible things, and now I'm back Olympic sailing. I think we really have the wide range of resources and experience to be able to pull together a pretty awesome team for this Women's America's Cup. It's pretty cool to be able to see those photos.
What do you think of the boat?
Wait to finally get a hands on one. I think they're absolutely at the top end of technology and innovation for sailing. I'm really excited. I don't know what it's going to feel like to not change sides. That's going to be something different, I guess, for the regular sailors, but really excited to get on board. Obviously they go incredibly fast. They're incredibly high tech, and I guess it's just the next challenge for females in sailing is to be able to get on one of these boats and really push it to the limits. Okay, well, I got to get you out of here so you can go yacht racing, but you have a terrific logo, AWC 2024 America's Cup Australian Women's Challenge, AWC Australian Women's Challenge, and your website, which I've looked at, awc2024.com.au, awc2024.com.au. Great stuff. Congratulations. But how are you also going to pull off this Olympic effort in the meantime, because you've been featured at the CYCA and in their magazine a few months ago, the Offshore, the magazine of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, right front and center, Olivia, and Evie's. Now, this is your other friend who's crewing for you in the FX, and you've got a nice full 2-page spread in that magazine on your path to Paris. Yeah, again, it's going to be an exciting 18 months. The 49er FX is an incredibly fun and fast boat. The fleet is super competitive, and that's, constantly challenging every day. Actually, midway through a regatta here in Sydney, a coaches regatta where we've got a whole number of boats on the water trying to get as much experience as we can. There is a big southerly buster coming in this afternoon, which is why we are under the pump to get out there and on the water, get some racing ahead. Evie is a young 19-year-old. We're both from the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, and one thing is, I'm really excited to be able to share this journey with her. And give her the experience that, I loved when I was 18, 19, 20. And I think that, the future of Australian sailing is really coming up through the ranks. And I'm really happy to be involved with it. Well,
bravo, Zulu. Congratulations. Delighted to have you on the show. We won't go. There's questions about how you're going to do fleet racing on these boats. 12 boats in fleet racing.
Super excited.
Huh?
I think it's that on that it can be really intimidating for some people to think about that. I'm really excited by the opportunity, the fast-paced decision making, and there is a bit of autopilot involved in these boats as well. So that does take a little bit away from the experience side. But for us, it's going to be about the sailing, and it's going to be about the decision making and getting it done. So I'll back us till the cows come home, and I'm really excited that we do get to have 2 groups of 6 racing against each other in the fleet racing. So there'll be 6 boats on each course to start off, and then we'll go into some cutoffs and finals, and then one-on-one match race for the very final.
Congratulations, bravo, Zulu. As I said, you're actually at the Middle Harbor Yacht Club, aren't you? That's not the CYCA.
No, at Middle Harbour, which is the national training centre for the Australian sailing team. So, our squad is here at the moment, and we're pretty much watching people rig out their sails.
Yeah, well, go sailing. It's amazing.
Too much longer.
It's amazing you have a national training center. The U.S. doesn't, and our Olympic sailing program, as you probably know, with Paul Caird standing down over the weekend, it's just a mess, and it's even a bigger mess. But let's don't bore you with that. Go out there, sail fast, sail safe, have fun. Good luck. Bravo, Zulu.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom, and thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Ciao. Ciao, ciao, Olivia. Say hi to your family.
Will do.
Bye. Olivia Price, fabulous interview, and when we were doing the tech check a few minutes before the top of the hour, she said, "I can only spend 15 minutes." Okay, that was 25, but I got to go yacht racing. We got to go sail, so we let her go. Quick through that in a hurry. Great stuff, Jeff Holder. Thank you. Now we'll go to the comments. Thank you. I'll go from the bottom. Thank you, Olivia. Stingray is saying, Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan Frank. Fun, enjoyable interview. Isn't she bubbly and fun and nice and bright? Just like her parents, even though her brother, he's got a sly sense of humor. I've gotten to know him pretty well, Harry. And as I said, I can usually get more than a word or two out of him. But her parents, David Price, and Christiane are just fabulous folks and good friends and foesies. Have a good sail today, Olivia. Alistair Murray is sailing. He's the president of the Australian Sailing Federation, or what is now called Australian Sailing. And Alistair's got, I think I've got 2 or 3 now AAAAs in the bank, in the can, so to speak. And we'll get to those in due course, not today, because there's so much news in addition to our live guest. We're delighted to have her on. Any other pressing comments here that I've missed? Has Olivia got the Persico 6? I don't know what they're going to do to train. I'm sure she is very bright, very well resourced. I'm sure she'll have good backing for this campaign. I hope she does. I'm sure she will. And we're looking forward to following it. Let's move ahead here to the John Emmett, to the coach's corner. Usually at the top of the show, but I pushed it down so we could get Olivia off the dock sooner. And welcome to John, who is, first of all, he sent in a touristic slideshow. Lily joined him in Bangkok after the Masters Worlds. He says, straight after the Masters World, the following morning, I headed to Bangkok to meet Lily. I guess Lily flew in. And he said we were professional tourists. Then we dutifully followed a TripAdvisor like professional tourists. And I love these slides. I think they were terrific, John. Thank you for sending them along in beautiful Bangkok. I don't know about the rest of you. I've never been in downtown or even in and around Bangkok. I've been through the airport a bunch of times, but never gotten out of the airport, especially the new airport. It's really nice. And John and Lily had a nice look around, sights and scenes and sounds of, what's that? What are they? Something Kingdom. What do they call Thailand? Fantastic stuff, John. And he's smart. You see, I go someplace, rush around, rush out the airport and leave. And I think he and Andrew McIrvin and a few other people, Alistair Murray, just to name 3, are a lot smarter than I. And they get out and they see the local color and the local scenery, including this. What was this? Some kind of a ping pong art exhibit, it looks like. Maybe you could buy those. Are those for sale? Buy us one, John. He's already gone. He's already home. Looks like they got to a karaoke bar. And the Year of the Rabbit, 2023, because she's now had to go home. She's going back to China. John's going back to England. They're going to get together later in the year. There's John putting a gong on the end of the slideshow. And the final slide, John saying, I'm now heading back to the farmhouse, to his mom's farmhouse, and then eventually to Weymouth for a bit of a well-deserved rest. Thank you, John. Thanks very much. And to Lily as well for those slides. And here's John. And not only did he send slides, but he also sent a report now that he's already back. He's an international man of mystery, Emmett is. Have a look.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. Before we go any further, please remember to like, share, and if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. A little bit more relaxed today. I'm back at Imberhorn Farm, looking at the granary project. A bit of a big difference here with the temperature, huge difference. Unfortunately, no longer joined by my lovely wife, Lily. But yeah, a little bit less rush today because we're not running around to get a massage and catch a plane, so to speak. But I hope you enjoyed the last one. It was just a wonderful hotel, and having your gym and your sauna and your jacuzzi and your stream room and stuff all there, it makes a difference, and they just couldn't have been more helpful. So yeah, Thailand was great, but back to reality here. And back to sailing, it seems very different, but actually this is a wonderful country, the UK, for sailing. And I've just returned from the dinghy show, which is now in the Farnborough Exhibition Centre, which is quite a lot closer to Weymouth than previously when we were up in London. And it's just great to catch up with so many old friends. And I say that now, I look at them with their grey hair and they look at me with my grey hair, and most of my mates seem to be running around with children now, which is very nice. And it's funny, when I look at university days, that is now for me more than half a lifetime ago, and I have some very fond memories, but I do have a scare in the morning when I see the old man looking back at me. But yeah, the RYA did a wonderful job doing the show. I just gave out some prizes on one of the days. We have a whole winter series. Personally, I only managed to do one event, which was one day event in the entire series, but yeah, it's still really good to support these things and bring everyone together, which is something we don't always have with class racing. So anyway, let's go on to the coaching topic. We're going to carry on with our TIF. So for those who maybe didn't hear quite so clearly last time, it was type, T for type. And there's actually two elements to that at least. The first is the type of training we do. In other words, with our goal setting, we need to make sure it's the right type of training for our sport. So if we're a grinder or if we're a 470 helm, we've probably got a quite different physical requirement, or even, you know, looking at windsurfers and dinghy sailors, you know, there's a huge fitness requirement, but it's actually different. And then the type of training, as in how you gain that fitness. And one of the things I was thinking about very much is to do it in as fun a way as possible. But I've probably caught myself out before when I've said that. And you do have to do the hard work. So it's do the hard work, make it fun, not just have a bit of fun and do some training. So I do look around the gym, can't help myself, and sometimes see people doing things which are a lot of fun, but I think possibly almost a borderline waste of time. So TIF is very much applicable for the physical training, and that's the examples I'm going to give. But it's also there for the technical training, the mental side of it, etc., etc. I mean, very physically training focused myself, both on diet, nutrition, which you probably couldn't guess looking at me, but there we go. But the physical training, it's such an important thing now, and that's maybe one of the main differences between the sport now and 30 years ago. Now everybody's full-time. That fitness requirement is very, very high. And that's why I feel I'm very lucky as a coach to wear both hats, because I can watch my sailor race. I can see where there's maybe a technique that is lacking due to a physical weakness, and then I can address that weakness with them in the gym, watching them in the gym. Okay, here goes the first chance for me to get run over. I think I'm going to be okay. I picked a quiet point, famous last words. But the idea that I can be there and watch them train, because you probably saw me miming yesterday, getting the selection right is really important. A good example, tricep press down. You know, if you're doing it so easy that there's no effort, you're not going to get any improvement. But if you're doing it so actually you're more or less just doing the entire movement with your shoulders, you're not going to get an improvement there either. So just doing like a program remotely and seeing what weights people write down, that doesn't work. Oh, talk about quiet. You may guess important farm is very close to London Gatwick, which has proved pretty well. It's funny, I've been running around the farm most of the morning. This is the busiest it's been with traffic, but there we go. Onwards and upwards. I is for intensity, and this is really important, and it's not a one size fits all. Actually, we do need to vary the intensity regardless of the part of the sport we do, but the high intensity, the high heart rate must correspond with a short duration. Let's face it, it's very hard to keep your high heart rate for a long time. And it's the same with the low heart rate. If we're more teaching our body to utilize fat, or in old money we used to call it about stamina, you do need to be doing maybe 3 or more hours of continuous activity. And that has got to be in the master plan, the big picture. So when are we doing high training volumes? When are we doing low training volumes? When are we doing high intensity, when are we doing low intensity? And you see it all sort of goes hand in hand, and it's based around our regatta profile. So yeah, we're coming to the beginning of the season. I see the early entry fee for Princess Sophia is just about to run out, so it's very nearly time to go racing. I'm going to go racing a little bit myself this year, which wasn't really in the plan, but we'll see how that goes. But type and intensity, see if you can guess what F is going to be at the next show. Hopefully, time difference and jet lag permitting. See you soon.
I hate to guess what the the F is, and keep it clean, or Julia will be waving her finger at you. Nice report, John. Wasn't it Paul? David J. Wasn't it Paul Elstrom who brought physical intensity? Well, he among others, but certainly he did. How many of you have a national dinghy show or an exhibition like that? I'm always astonished. As I said in, I think, the previous show, we ran a bit of a video promo for it. It was last weekend. I've spoken at that when it was at Alexandra Palace. But, the closest thing we have to it, I guess, in this country is the Annapolis Boat Show, which is an in-the-water show, and it's mostly a big boat show. But this is the dinghy show, the RYA Dinghy and Water Sports Show, whatever they call it. And, people go to it. And, of course, it's a smaller country. It's easy to go to London or out to Farnborough, and, people can get there and have the weekend. Pier Sailing Show, wow. Yeah, Steve Atkins, I agree. Sail America, Alan Long is saying, used to. Yeah, here in this country, there used to be. But there just is not the market. There's just not the interest. But, yeah, it was nice to see Fireballs, who Clark Chapin talked about that. It was nice to see the OK Dinghy. Every time an OK Dinghy showed up, James Bland made a comment. And it was an interesting video. TIFF. TIFF. Training, the type of training, type, intensity, F and F. Well, I don't know. We'll guess. We'll see on Friday's show, and John will have another video for us. Thank you, John Emmett. Thank you very much indeed. That is John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. John's, I think, still, maybe not, but he's still looking for a new coaching job after his Romanian mentee dropped out for, I guess, ran low on funding and is going to be part of the national effort with a national coaching squad. But he may also be running a team or two, and we're going to talk about one team that needs a new team leader. That is in the U.S. after what happened. John reminding us to like, follow, share, subscribe. Thank you, John, to your Facebook and YouTube pages if you are so inclined. Thanks again. If you are here joining now looking for Olivia, we put her at the very top of the show because she had to go yacht racing. She was at the Middle Harbour Yacht Club in Australia, in Sydney, where they have their national training program for their Olympic Training Center, and she was headed out to race in her FX, her 49er FX, because she is not only doing this America's Cup Women's Challenge, she's doing an Olympic campaign in the FX. I asked her in the tech check, I didn't want to drag her out any longer. I asked her, how are you going to do both? And she said, oh, well, the men do it all the time. The women can do it too. And you know what? She's right. They can do Sail GP. They can hop into the Olympics. They can do the America's Cup training, as Pete and Blair did in the 49er. They can hop into the Olympics, yada, yada. Why can't we, she said. And, she's right. So they are going to train in the FX, hopefully get selected, do the Olympics in the end of August, end of July, early August, and then she's going to hop into more training for the America's Cup in some kind of foiling boat before they get to the AC40s in Barcelona, where the boats will be low. Thank you for joining us. Show number 596, 4 more to 600, which will be 2 weeks from today. Will be, unless something happens in the meantime, it'll be show number 600. Speaking of 600, I have a couple more videos. And bravo Zulu to the Royal Ocean Racing Club. They turned out not only a terrific event, as they almost always do, but also terrific coverage of it. Images, verbiage, and videos. And I've got 2 more because they're just so good. Have a look.
Shake them sides, and you better choose wisely. That's my heart. 1, 2, 3, 4, start to 5.
Okay, a little trendy there with the fast cuts and in time with the music, but I'm sure Andrew McIrvin will have a word with some of that. But there's another video that's their so-called rap video. Just amazing
My
stuff.
name is Loic Perron, and I'm going to do this race for the 3rd time.
This is the 2nd time I've competed in the Caribbean 600.
This is my first.
This is our 2nd Caribbean 600.
This is my first time.
This is my 4th, 7 times now.
This is my 5th.
It's my first time sailing the race on Rafale. My first time on the Caribbean 600.
This is my 2nd.
13 times, and this is going to be our 14th time. I'm trying to keep my record going.
Yeah, the 600 is a super tough race. Very enjoyable though. You know, you're sailing in trade winds with temperatures in the mid-20s, so it's pretty pleasant. Very challenging in terms of the race course. Lots of corners, lots of tricky geographical situations to deal with.
I've been prepped by the team that have done the race many times that don't plan on getting much sleep in this race. It's kind of you're up for the duration, and you'll be weary when you finish the race. So not looking forward to the lack of sleep, but I am looking forward to the change of scenery and the changing of conditions all the way around the track.
I particularly love being in Antigua. It's such a great place for sailing. I think it's just such a great race. It's there's a good camaraderie amongst the crews, and it's a great location. It's nice to get away from the northern hemisphere in this time of year.
Yeah, I'm expecting like a little bit like everybody, spending a lot of time behind the chart table, changing a lot of sail, make a lot of maneuver, and have a good time, because that's what we liked. So it's gonna be perfect.
Crazy wind, route near islands, and of course because it's the famous race on the Caribbean.
We're looking for what? For the best for everyone. Yeah, I don't care about finishing first or last, I don't remember that. But I think it's important that everybody needs to be happy.
So the race committee get a great view of the competitors leaving at the start of the race. From the top of Fort Charlotte, you actually have the advantage of looking down on the fleet. You can see all the pre-race tactics. You can see what boats are planning to do from a long way off, much better than on the water. And it's a fantastic feeling with all the work that goes into the race to see the boats depart on their 600-mile race around the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We are making a project to sail around the world on each continent, on each ocean. And now we have season on Caribbean islands. We are still learning racing double-handed. Hulta is a vintage boat. We still preparation and trimming. When you're sailing solo, you decide everything. When you sleep, when you eat. Sailing double-handed, you make it more risky. If you sail with together, you have watch to watch. It's really different.
I sailed two-handed with Claire. We've done the Transat together. We started sailing together at the beginning of last year. Very similar in some ways, but we've also got quite diverse backgrounds of how we've come into sailing. And so we use that diversity to problem solve. And with these big races, lots goes wrong. You know, you get lots of breakages, lots of problems with the boat that you need to fix. And so Claire is like my right-hand woman to fix the problems that we come across.
It's going to be tough for us double-handed. Lots of sail changes, lots of looking at expedition, lots of debate, lots of talk. We challenge each other, but in a really constructive way. And then we make a decision, we progress with that decision, and if it's not right, well, we do something different. Somebody once said to me, the thing about short-handed sailing is outsleep the enemy. And so we're really, really strict about that. So when you're off watch, your job is to go to sleep. And that's the most important thing you can do.
We're really proud to be sort of forging the way for women in the sport. I'm part of the Magenta project, which is all about accelerating women in performance sailing. We get a lot of women coming up to us and saying that they're tracking us, they're following us, and that's really nice. And so we're here and we want to really inspire other women to get involved in the sport and to do what we do. I mean, we've both got full-time jobs, we're not professional sailors, and I just think if we can do it, anybody can do it. So to all the women out there, get sailing.
4 boats battled it out in the two-handed class, Hultai, Liftgun and Purple Mist. But in the end, the winner was the JPD 54 Notre Mediterranean Wilderness.
So with 5 different double-handed boats, from a really small one to us, the biggest one, everybody has its challenges on sleep management. We try to do 20-minute, 30-minute naps every now and again. Obviously, we didn't get too much in. We set out for a race without too many mishaps, which we achieved, and to be first in class is obviously very satisfying.
We are 3 days on the match every day, and yeah, you finish and you know that you're first. It's every time a great moment.
It was just a very challenging race course. Very satisfying to be here in the end. Tired because as double-handed boat, not much sleep, but yeah, nice race course, beautiful, beautiful scenery.
So an RC2, which is the biggest class in the race, Peter McWhinney's boat in theory, won their class again, had a fantastic battle with EH01, Bella J and others, all the way back from the Barbuda mark, but thoroughly deserved their win.
Absolutely great to make it around. I have a wonderful crew, can't thank them enough. And they did everything superbly throughout the, whatever it was, 3.5 days. It's, relief to get through the last beat. This thing's got a little fluky, but really relieved to be here and really happy. The run down from Barbuda to Nevis, that first run was beautiful. Sail with 6, so Aaron Sprague is co-skipper, Simon Karstoff, co-navigator, Com Crocker, Peter Fackler, and Pat Slattery. And it's an all-around crew. We all steer, we all trim, and the crew work has just been outstanding. One of the real highlights of this race was being in the mix with 3-4 other boats and match racing against them all the time. No, we had a good benchmark. We knew if we were messing things up, we knew if we were doing things well, and so we tried to stay close, and it worked out.
RC1 had a fantastic battle, all the boats finishing with a few hours of each other on corrected time. Final had a pretty good lead over the line, but in the end, the classic boat Hound proved that the RC rule suits all, so a classic boat winning RC1 on corrected time.
We knew it was going to be a fight to the finish. We had a time in our mind that we had to hang on to, and the competition was really pushing hard, and we were trying to stay up with them. We rounded Redondo, it was like amazing, and we sailed right into a hole. And sails were flapping, yeah. And then it picked up again and we were back in business. But yeah, it was touch and go there at the end. It was super exciting. Coming back to the Cat Club and having people on the dock waiting with beer was unbelievable. We had a great welcome, and it just capped off an awesome race. A lot of hard work, but an amazing team. I mean, I've never sailed with a better group of people. So this was really special.
RC0 saw one of the most highly anticipated battles in the well sail 50-footers in this fleet. The Guadeloupe Casino dropped Ran and Callisto. Black Pearl and Teaser Machine managed to sneak their way through, but in the end, it was Teaser Machine that came out on top in RC0.
It's a race of action in which you always have wind. You are constantly between 15 to 20, 25 knots. So that's what makes this race so exciting. This year in particular, we had a fantastic 50 feet class in the IRC 0 with highly competitive boats.
All in all, we made a very good race. We improved quite a lot, so we're very happy how solid we are with the boat today, and the team is doing a great job making her fast.
Callisto had a fantastic performance. We were so close with them, and to have Callisto just behind us after La Désirade, and we stayed together 3/4 of the way, and we just finished something like 15 minutes behind them. So we had a great time racing with Callisto. It was absolutely fabulous.
Well, on board Callisto, it was non-stop from the start, and IRC 0 was stacked. We knew that going in, and the competition with these boats was minute for minute, boat for boat, and probably a dozen lead changes overall, and sailed well over half the race within 10 boat lengths of Teasing Machine, Black Pearl, and Ran. What impressed me most was how Eric and the team committed off Montserrat. They flew a kite when everybody else was on code 0. They went deep, and they set themselves off a bit further offshore to pick up that puff that sent them around the corner. So hats off to those guys for putting it on the line.
The other highly competitive boat in the class is Daggett. It's not the first time we see them on the 600. Last year they beat us. This year we beat them just about. Every time they are there about to win.
In this kind of race, it's difficult. First, you need to race against yourself, because that's the only way to do your best. And then you look at the fleet, and we know that Teasing Machine and Callisto also are very good crew. They have a very good boat, and like all the time, it's a big fight. But we're happy to find all the time this boat on this kind of race. That's very interesting.
It's always such a cool race. So many good moments. Some tough moments. I mean, the leeward side of Guadeloupe is always a moment where you get to keep your nerves cool. I would say pretty fast angles rides with squalls yesterday morning, side to side with Black Pearl and Callisto. Fast power reaching, a little bit wet and wild. That's pretty cool. Give me a bit of memory of the Volvos. That's always good feelings.
RC Super Zero had 3 Volvo 65s, a couple of 70s, joining Paiwak at 70 in this class. Paiwak at 70 executed very well through the Lee of Guadeloupe.
Okay, we've covered this in other videos, so I'm these last 2 classes, but bravo Zulu to the RORC, fabulous stuff. I like it when they go into the fleet and cover everybody. I don't normally run a video that's quite this long, 13, 14 minutes, but it is. Here's Benny Mitchell, longtime friend down at San Diego Yacht Club. I think this was his first 600, didn't he say? And they're sailing Paiwak at the 70, Paiwak at 70, the boat of Roy Pat Disney, and Roy Pat was not on the race. But bravo Zulu to them as well as to the Mullies, who had what else can I say? Fabulous event, well done. And we are just about into 1 hour for this show, so let's push on here. And the ladies were talking about the right hand being each other's right hand lady. My left-hand lady is not here. Julia has still a touch of COVID. She tested positive after, 9 days? Yesterday, 8 days. And she'll probably, according to Andrew McIrvin, when I had it in October, I tested positive for, I think, 13 days. And again, my beloved mother in Michigan, she tested positive yesterday, and hopefully the Paxlovid, which got delivered to her. Interesting. Talking to Andrew McIrvin, just texting back and forth this morning, he said in the UK, it's tough to get your primary physician to, get the script, to get the stuff to you, and it's just all screwed up in the UK right now. But I must say, both with the experience with Julia and with my mother, where they were able to get the stuff and indeed deliver it to my mother's apartment this morning. So she's hopefully on the mend, or will be soon. I want to go back to some comments here. There was a comment from way back up from Julie Ahrens. We're talking about traveling around in places. She said the best way to travel is to take the time to immerse yourself in the culture. To really get to know a place, you have to taste the local food and mingle with the locals. It is usually, I don't know what the rest of her comment, the rest of it was lost. But yeah, I'm just always rush, go. And I think Julie and many of you are right. That's the way to do it. And you look at the RORC, the 600, the Caribbean 600, and you go and you really ought to spend some time in not only in Antigua, but look around. And I'm sure many of you do. You're smarter than I. Bravo Zulu. What a fabulous sport. Nice people. Clark Chapin, probably not hard to get Paxlovid prescribed by your primary care physician if you're 89 years old, as my mother is. Yeah, well, you got to still get to them. And you got to get them to return your call. And if it's on a weekend, who knows? And it's different in different countries. So Ed Worley saying, yep, a very nice video. Julie Ahrens loving the sportsmanship. Yeah, everybody's so happy, so friendly. These people on that boat did this and did that. It must just be the Caribbean spirit. Nice stuff. Any other comments? This I love. Mark Husted is saying, I assume he means that video. And the Mod 70 is such a cool platform. Kudos to Paul and Coots. Yep, Coots. Those trimarans are especially stunning to watch. Andrew McIrvin have done 6. He's done 6 of those RORC, the Caribbean 600s. Caribbean or Caribbean, I don't know. Gunboat with Alex would have been my choice. Flying ships, the starting shot. Yeah, the starting shotgun really suits the event and the location. I said when I saw that in one of the other videos, I'm going to try to get an outtake of that and use it in place of that Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron video that we have been using for some time. Shall we carry on here and get on to another race? This, of course, is the ocean race. It had a bit of a dodgy start, kind of a stop-and-go start in Cape Town on Sunday. And they're headed, as you probably know, to Itajaí. It's a long leg all the way around to Brazil, the east side of South America. Here is the starting video. Broken Traveler on biotherm, and they went back to the port, dropped out, because I figured if they didn't repair it then, they were never going to be able. Apparently, a lot of the ball bearings dropped out of the Traveler. They didn't have replacements on board. And Charlie Enright and co., they also had a problem. They had to drop out for a couple hours while they fixed their battens on the mainsail. Apparently, if you're going to drop out and get outside assistance, you got to stop for at least 2 hours. This is still biotherm, of course. Okay, so much for that video and the problems they had at the start. This is the current race report from today. All 5 IMOCAs are now pointing south and east, the general direction of the Southern Ocean, and the finish line in Brazil. The sailors have escaped the light wind zone, and just in the last 6 or 8 hours have got some real breeze, and are enjoying comfortable sailing conditions. You can follow the ocean race on Eurosport and Discovery Plus. A weather system with strong winds and big waves is developing to the south of the fleet. The leading boat, Team Wholesome PRB, is in a great position. Expect them to make gains as they get to the breeze first, I think it said. I think Paul Meal had on biotherm.
Quite deep with a high sea state associated. So the idea is to find the good way, to have a good speed, not too much wind and not too much wave.
It's a long way to go. All 5 boats are doing well, and there is some exciting sailing to come. This aboard 11th Hour Racing. The U.S. boat, Charlie Enright and co. All righty. So what's going on now? You have one more video. I don't think I'm going to play all this video. Bit of a repeat of what we've already seen. And we'll skip through here to the... this is from a couple hours ago now. What is it, 14? Yeah, I took this about noon our time, so 2 hours ago. And here were the boats out of Cape Town. And Wholesome PRB is quick, and they seem to be going quick, as they said in that race report. Geo Environment, the team that had been struggling in the first 2 legs, is up in second place. So bravo Zulu to them, having a better race at least so far. Team Malizia is back 70 miles of the leader. 11th Hour Racing and Biotherm back even further after having to slow down there and stop, in fact, to get repaired soon after their respective starts. So the start in Cape Town. We remind you that starting this leg, the leaderboard, as they start leg 3, Wholesome PRB has won the first 2 legs, hence on 5 and 5, 10 points total. 11th Hour Racing on 7 points, and then down the list. But I hope I'm wrong, but I think Wholesome PRB looks like they are launched again, and this race could be theirs to lose at this point, as they have now started leg 3 from Cape Town to Itajaí in Brazil. How about this day in history? Do you know what happened on this day in history? Besides those of you who are television buffs here in the U.S., it was the last, 40 years ago? 40 years ago was the last episode of MASH, the Korean War television series. Brilliantly written. It was sad. It was tough. It was funny. It was hilariously funny. But MASH, the television show here in the States, and I'm sure you've seen it all over the world, the last episode is still the most watched scripted television show in the history of this country, and that was 40 years ago today, that last episode. What was it called? Farewell, So Long, Farewell, whatever it was. There have been some Super Bowls, our big football gridiron game, that have had more views, but that was a huge, and in fact, it was so big, and that's not the subject of today's This Day in History, but it was so big that when it ended, and was it a 2-hour episode? I can't remember. When it ended, in New York City, at least, everybody went to the restroom and flushed the toilets, and it caused havoc in the water system in New York and beyond when they all flushed the toilets at the same time. But do you know what happened otherwise on the 28th of February, 1935? And here's your first clue. How's that for a clue? Anybody know that boat? That is a boat down in SoCal. Some of you will know it, but that's not the reason for showing that slide. Here's your second clue. What happened on this date at Samonte? Bronny? Hey, hi, Bronny. I didn't know you were on. She may have taken that picture, in fact. My grandmother got pregnant with my dad, Bill Wingrove is saying. Mary Longpree, another photographer extraordinaire, dear friend from Long Beach, from Balboa Yacht Club. She knew it was a Monte as well. Did you take that photo, Mary? One of them probably. First nylon spinnaker, Bill Wingrove is asking. No, not the first nylon spinnaker, but you're getting warm. How about this? Does this picture help? Gordon Smith. Steve Gruber asking, was Bill Lee born? Fastest fun, Bill Lee. Gordon Smith, ding, ding, ding. He gets it, the invention of nylon. David Guscott. Hello, David. There's a new name, David Guscott. Nylon. Indeed. That is what happened on this day in history in 1935. This gentleman, Wallace H. Carruthers, not Carruthers, who was a Harvard-trained chemist, went to work at DuPont, lived 1896 to 1937. Apparently in 35, he was leading the team that came up with this polymer that became nylon. And by the way, the guy, he and his team had a bunch of other achievements, but this was in 35, and, a relatively young age. He was born in 96, but 2 years later, he thought he hadn't achieved enough, so he took some potassium cyanide and killed himself, sadly, according to Wikipedia anyway. So this gentleman, nylon was the first commercially successful synthetic thermoplastic polymer. DuPont began its research project in 1927. The first nylon 66, was synthesized on February 28th, 1935. So it was that a long time ago. By this guy, Wallace Carruthers, at DuPont's research facility at the DuPont Experimental Station. I love that name. In response to Carruthers' work, Paul Schlock at IG Farben developed nylon 6, a little bit different molecule based on what? I've never heard of this. Caprolactam? Any of you nerds, any of you eggheads ever heard of caprolactam? About a year later, I guess it was 3 years later, so 38. And the first commercial application, apparently, of this nylon was in nylon bristled toothbrushes in 38. Followed by, more famously, in women's stockings or nylons, of course, as you all know, they became to be known, which were shown at the 1939 New York World's Fair and sold commercially in 1940, whereupon they became an instant commercial success with, get this, 64 million pairs sold during their first year on the market. During World War II, almost all nylon production was diverted to the military for use in parachutes and parachute cord. Wartime uses of nylon and other plastics greatly increased the market for all the new materials. And of course, nylon, we had rayon sales and nylon sales and then Dacron sales and then everything from there. And we went fiberglass, and all part and parcel of this whole DuPont team and our beloved sport. I couldn't help but show some of these other pictures of nylon. I guess these are all nylon spinnakers. You know what boat that is, famously cool. I think that's a painting of a picture. Is that a painting? Stockings were silk before nylons, and the stockings started being called nylons. Nylon 66. Thank you, Clark Chapin. Thank you. Polyamide, a.k.a. nylon. Okay, all the eggheads, Clark Chapin being the leader of that pack. Isn't that a picture of Merlin? That's a picture of Kealoha. And I'm not sure which kilo, if that's 1, 2. I think it's 2 actually, but somebody will know. And then there's another one in the blooper days of the old IOR rule. Fabulous photo, and I think that's here on the bay. I think that's a big boat series. No, Mark Hess said I haven't covered the worlds, the Ilka 7s. not the 6s. The 7s have wrapped up, and Bravo Zulu to Tim Law, who won that. But I'll cover that on Friday. We just don't have time today, and I didn't have time to get the video and put it all in the show. But I just love these. Speaking of nylon, these are all nylon kites, I'm sure. 3/4 ounce, ounce and a half. The first picture was a Monte. Nylon is too elastic for good shoots. James, yeah, of course, they're different materials today. Nylon's Illustrated. Stingray is saying, now this famous photo, do you know where that was taken? Yes, those are 12 meters. This is one of my favorite photos of all times. And it was, well, the pre-war spinnakers were out of canvas. They were big, heavy canvas. They weren't silk. That's the 1986 12-meter class Worlds in Fremantle, WA, one of the coolest regattas in the modern history of the sport, off of Perth in Western Australia. And then finally, one other great picture. Yep, Ed Worley saying Fremantle. Ed Worley would know he was there. Pass and review. Frio, Steve Ruger got it. Lots of you know. Alistair Murray, of course, knew that was Fremantle. Alistair, our leading Australian light these days. Imagine how boring the Mardi Gras would be if nylon was never invented, Jody Shields. I love this photo. This, of course, from the 2021, it's actually 2020, but raced in 2021 Tokyo Olympics, the 470 class, another class that has been ruined by world sailing. But then that's another issue. Finally, one more. I mean, look at what we've got in our sport. This from the Big Boat Series here on San Francisco Bay 2021, the Rolex Big Boat Series. I think that's a Sharon Green, or either Sharon Green or the clockmaker may have taken that. I'm not sure who took that picture. Fabulous stuff. Okay. We got to this. I didn't know whether to talk too much about this today or not, but I'm going to at least delve into it. But I'm embarrassed to report that during the show on Friday, I got word that Paul Kayard had stepped down, and whether it's kind of a combination of being forced out and him resigning in disgust from the leadership role. He was called executive director of Olympic sailing in this country. Paul is the third guy to step down in the last, since just before the Tokyo Olympics, when Aussie, Alice, what was his name? Page, help me out. Help me out with what Mr. Page's first name. Nice guy, great guy, was living here in the Bay Area. We didn't, not you, I didn't, had anything to do with it. U.S. Sailing hired him. Malcolm, I've just come to me. Malcolm Page was hired and then forced out. He quit. He was forced out. He was fired. And then there was a very cool guy called Greg Fisher who was in the mix for a while. It was kind of the COO. They put him in there to help Malcolm. Greg Fisher's a guy I grew up racing against. His dad, my dad in the Midwest, Ohio, Michigan, as Clark Chapin will well know. Greg Fisher's dad and my dad raced against each other in the Lightning class and the Interlake class and various other classes. And Greg Fisher and I raced against each other in Flying Scots and Thistles and so on. And then Greg went on to be the head coach at College of Charleston and was hired away by U.S. Sailing. I called him up and said, "You really want to do this?" He said, "Yeah, I think I need to change the scenery and I can help out with Malcolm Page." Well, then he left. He got disgruntled and left very quietly. Greg's a very understated guy. Then Kayard came in, Paul, who I've been to war with 3 times in the America's Cup and is a leader of men and women. I've known him well for years. Love the guy. He came in with a plan, got a management consulting firm, got McKinsey to put together a plan and fundraising and everything, then decided that maybe I'd better run this myself. When they were looking around for somebody to run it, he said, "Okay, I'll jump in and do it." Threw his hat in the ring, got hired, and now has been pushed out. He resigned in disgust on Friday. I'd known about this for a couple weeks. It's been going on for a couple months. Paul, in discussions and angst with the leadership of U.S. Sailing over money and over job description. And I have said nothing about U.S. Sailing and the non-sailing CEO that they hired a couple years ago. I don't know the gentleman. I've said nothing about him until now. and I'm going to have a fair bit to say about it in the next couple minutes, and then we'll carry on. So Kayard's gone as of Friday. I didn't say anything about it before. I didn't, because I was asked not to, and I didn't say anything about it during the show, even though several of you were texting me, and we just let it play out. Friday afternoon, Paul put out a statement. I'm not going to read the statements. Paul can be his own worst enemy. None of us is perfect. Sometimes Paul is all Paul all the time, but he is so smart and he's so accomplished and so good. And his statement was a little bit I, me, we, I, me, my, and, you know, but it was also part his personal angst in, you know, having come to blows with the leadership of U.S. Sailing and not being able to see a way forward. He got his statement out to Scuttlebutt and circulated around. And then U.S. Sailing, which again, I'm not going to read there, you can see it on the websites. U.S. Sailing then sent out the lamest ass press release I have ever seen in our sport. And this forget about any, you know, press release that starts with champagne sailing conditions and talks about the weather and the PRO and the race, the regatta chairman for the first 4 or 5 paragraphs. This thing is the worst, mealy-mouthed, disgusting press release that U.S. Sailing put out Friday evening about reorganizing the Olympic campaign. Never mentioned Paul's name, never thanked him for his contributions. There was a quote from the president, but no, I mean, I won't tell you, some of you got it, saw it, read it, and sent me notes and just said that you couldn't. In fact, it was hilarious if it weren't so sad. And imagine being in the Olympians, the U.S. Olympic hopefuls, who've been busting their picks, men, women, otherwise, to try to get to Paris. And before that, to go through this whole mess with Tokyo and Malcolm Page going and then Greg Fisher and now Paul. This is Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. This is unfrigging believable what's going on here. As Friday, Paul Kayard is out as head of Olympic sailing. He said he quit. He resigned in disgust, couldn't get along with the leadership. One hears they wanted to redo his job description. They didn't want him both in charge of fundraising and in charge of team operations, so they decided to restructure, knowing full well that he'd probably go. I think U.S. Sailing's got big financial problems. I don't think they've raised the kind of money they said they would, and I think the non-sailing CEO does not have a clue how to run a sailing organization, let alone an Olympic sailing program. Doesn't just have the feel. So I'm disgusted, as you can tell. Now, this is the president of U.S. Sailing. He's a nice guy. He is here from the Bay Area. He's not much of a racer. He's done some racing. His name is Rich Jepson. He was quoted in the release. Rich is from the East Bay, ran a sailing school over there for a long time. He's a member of St. Francis Yacht Club. As I said, he's a nice guy. But again, he's not a keen racing sailor like the organization U.S. Sailing. When I ran it back in the late, it was a different era in the 80s. It was a racing organization. It was a pure racing organization. And now U.S. Sailing, some call it U.S. Flailing, U.S. Failing, but it's really U.S. training. They're all about training, whether it's training in motorboats, training junior, training instructors. It's not about racing, or it is, but as one senior serious person told me Friday or Saturday, I guess it was, but over the weekend, U.S. Sailing is spread so thin, it's kind of one molecule thin, trying to do all things to all people, trying to be the AAA of sailing and not be focused on what people really want and need, which is a good set of racing rules, a good set of offshore rating rules, or 1 or 2 or 3, but at least one good one and maybe a couple others, and a good Olympic team. I don't need much more than that. Clubs, classes, yacht racing associations, local sailing organizations can take care of the rest. But like our federal government in this country, like the EU in Europe, think they've got to be top down, and instead of a volunteer organization with a small staff, that the staff in Portsmouth, which is just north of Newport, Rhode Island, of some 60 people, it's give or take 60 people. It may be 55, it might be low 60s, I don't know, because I counted through the other day and counted 63, but apparently there are two pictures in several different departments where people have overlapping roles. Nonetheless, I had 20 people when I ran the place. And again, the volunteers, the executive committee, the president was the CEO, not me. I was the COO, and my staff supported this volunteer organization, which was a superb yacht racing organization. In the 80s, as many of you know, when I was the executive director, we had a guy called Sam Merrick, who was the voluntary head of the Olympic program, a guy I hired called Jonathan Harley, who was his diligent deputy, and a bunch of very smart people, dedicated racing sailors on the Olympic Sailing Committee, and we won a medal in every class. Okay, it was a different time. The other countries hadn't professionalized quite the way they have now, especially the Brits, maybe the Aussies, the French. But my goodness, we have completely screwed the pooch in this country. This guy has got to go. This guy is the non-sailing CEO. I've said nothing about him except in passing, mentioned him. I don't know the gentleman. I've just kept my powder dry now for 2 years. When I heard that U.S. Sailing hired a guy who was in the entertainment business, had been president of the Detroit Pistons basketball team, which is not saying much, by the way, at least based on their recent record. They were great back in the early 80s. This guy, I won't even read his name. He and Paul could not see eye to eye, and he's trying to grab more of the fundraising reins from what one hears. This guy, another non-sailing CEO like Mr. Hunt was at World Sailing, this guy has to go. And you can all have a drink. You can start a drinking contest, because every show I'm going to remind everybody that this gentleman has to go. And the aforementioned president, Rich Jepson, and the rest of the gang on that board, including Stan Honey, maybe the smartest guy in the sport, is on that board, and some other very smart, cool people. They got to get control of this situation, get rid of this guy, and have a better plan. Okay, now one hears, just before I literally was pushing the buttons to go on the air, and I got a text from somebody saying that not only is Paul gone, but then head coach Luther Carpenter, and I haven't talked to these guys, so this is a one hears. I'm not telling you 100% this is true, but one hears that Luther Carpenter, Leandro Spina, right? Who's the development guy, terrific guy, and my old friend Charlie McKee have all stepped down, have all today resigned. So that's the whole Olympic leadership. This is Curtonicism on a level that makes all this stuff look Mickey Mouse. This guy has to go. And he has to go today or tomorrow or in the next few days, because he got all these Olympians need some leadership. They need to refocus this thing, get rid of this guy, the non-sailing CEO, get somebody in. I'll tell you who they should get. In fact, I'm not going to say, because I don't want to if it's possible this guy could get the job. I don't want people to say, oh, Eamon's pushing him, so we're not going to hire him. But there's a terrific guy who applied for the job before, and they didn't hire him. And this guy is a pure racer. He's a great manager of a nonprofit organization. His parents were involved. So those of you in the know will know who I'm talking about. His parents were involved intimately in U.S. Sailing, U.S. Yacht Racing Union, the Etchells class, through American Yacht Club, through and through yacht racers. But this guy's got to go. The wheels have completely fallen off the wagon, Jeff Holder is saying. Yes, they have. Charlie McKee resigned too. Well, that's plenty of convincing for me. My best sailing ever was his crew, Stingray, saying, up in Seattle. The process to get rid of him is the executive committee fires him. There is a giant sucking sound. It has to fall at Mr. Osfeld's feet. And again, it's not simply his fault. It's that the organization that used to be volunteer-run, volunteer-driven, with a small supporting staff of professionals, myself, Ken Weller, Jonathan Harley, Mimi Dyer, and on. And we were there. No, I had to go in sometimes and bang my shoe on the table with the executive committee and say, excuse me, we got to do this. We got to do this. Here's why. But I didn't make the final call. The volunteers, the executive committee, who represented yacht clubs, yacht racing associations, and class associations. And they were all racing sailors. The name of the organization was the United States Yacht Racing Union. We were pure and simply a yacht racing organization. Sail racing, call it what you want. Till U.S. Sailing gets back to that. Dean Brenner, who ran the Olympic program for 8 years, smart guy, wrote an op-ed piece last night in Scuttlebutt, said, time has come to split the organization. Let U.S. Sailing go off and be the AAA of sailing. By the way, The American Sailing Association does an arguably better job of all the stuff U.S. Sailing tries to do. But they see the money in training instructors and certifying instructors and then selling insurance to the instructors and the instructors' clubs. Money to support a staff of 60 people. Come on. Let somebody else do that. Focus on what racing sailors need, which is racing, the rules, the offshore rating rules, and the Olympic program, the clubs, classes, YRAs, meaning yacht racing associations, local sailing organizations can do the rest. U.S. Sailing, the U.S. Sailing team is upside down. This is grossly unfair to the Olympic hopefuls, to the people who've given money, like Malin Burnham, like Bill Koch, like Doug DeVos, and I could name more, and then for this to happen. This is gross. Now, you know what else is gross? Is that today, this notification came out to U.S. Sailing members, this a couple days ago, saying new U.S. Sailing membership pricing takes effect next Tuesday, which is today. This came out 4 days ago. New U.S. Sailing membership pricing takes effect next Tuesday. It's all about money. As you can always say, when there's a problem, almost always follow the money. This organization is in big trouble. The non-sailing CEO has got to go, and the executive committee has got to take control and have racing as the core competency and the core focus of the organization, not all this other shiza. Okay, enough. I've said it. I'll go to the comments. Julia's upstairs saying, oh my goodness, he's really going off this time. Follow the money. How much does the non-sailor make? There is a problem. He makes too much. I don't know if he makes too much, but I think he was probably not happy about how much Paul was making. Is it insane? How's my blood pressure now, Mary Longpree? My blood pressure, thank goodness, is generally in very good shape. I don't take any, at my advanced stage, I don't take any meds. Try to keep the weight off. Try to have a banana every now and then. Andrew Pindar, Mark Husted. They needed, I mean, you guys. Luca Craig down in Auckland. It's my pink shirt. He's saying, Tom, you need to change the white balances. You're going red from being very wound up. Just joking, of course. You know, I can change the white. This is funny. This is fun. I can change the white balance. Look, on my camera. There, I can make it blue. On the camera control, I can make it really there. Talk about hot. Okay, I'm not going to be hot. Let's just get on with it here. But I can't do that. Okay, Luca Craig, thank you. Thank you for that. There will be a lot of pressure on the U.S. sailing team. And, well, good point, John Emmett. So that's the real point, is that Kayard was on a mission to try to have a strong team, not necessarily in Paris. We've got a good, probably gold medalist prospect, certainly in the Olympic, in kiting, from right here from St. Francis Yacht Club. But it's 2028 when we're hosting the games again in the States, down in Long Beach, and we got this madness going on. From one says, Paul raised lots of money and then it went to areas. Too bad the answer from what one hears. Yeah, Ken Saban, you're right. I know who you've been talking to. And prestige is the credit rating of nations. It's same with Olympic sailing. No medals, no prestige, no credit for the U.S. sailing team. Clayton Embley. I don't usually agree with Tom, but he is spot on. Thanks, Julie. I thought you always agreed with me, except when I got on Grant Dalton's case. What else? Any other comments here? Yeah, it's a loss. Who do we contact at U.S. Sailing as a member? And I think Rich Jepson, the president, has got to get this, and I'm reasonably confident that Rich will get this somehow under control. One can only hope. As I said, I know Rich, a good guy, and I'm also counting on Stan Honey, who I think Stan is now, his title is vice president, isn't it? But this is enough. I've kept my mouth shut. I've watched, through the painful Rio and then Tokyo, while there's some other suck-up artists in this country say, oh, well, maybe I'll get hired to do this or that. We won't criticize U.S. Sailing. I'm done. This guy's got to go. The leadership's got to step up. They got to pare the staff down. They got to cut costs, and they got to get on with promoting racing. Racing. Okay, enough. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, John Lamberts, I'm going to one more comment. The ones I feel for most are the ones on the U.S. Olympic squad. Good heavens, are these sailors messed around with? Maybe the Dutch should adopt a few and hand them a Dutch passport so they get their well-deserved chance. Andrew McIrvin, the RYA tries to do everything to do with boating in the UK, even motorboats, but have specific national lottery cash for Olympic sailing. Yes, but you also separate sailing from non-sailing, or racing from non-racing very effectively, Andrew McIrvin, in the UK. And it's a different situation. You got a smaller country than we do. And Alistair Murray, I want to talk to you as well, and Andrew, and we're going to get offline and talk about that in due course. Sean Hogan, thank you for that. Thanks. I was wondering where American sailing had got to. The RYA are the gold standard, John Emmett. Yes, indeed they are. Mark Husted, I rarely watch this on Facebook. I watch it on YouTube only because of convenience, but this was funny. Okay, enough! We carry on here. Speaking of cool people, we have a FOSI Focus, Friends of Sailing Illustrated, and a nice segment today. He's often on here, one of our favorites, and that, of course, is the Secretary General of the International Maxi Association, former Admiral of the RORC, our good friend, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who the New York Times headline in August of 2021 said, Andrew McIrvin is on a mission to save the Maxi Association. Well, there is a new article just out on Sailing World on their website. Andrew came here to the Stag Cruise, and the Sailing World article by Kimball Livingston is just out. This is the Wally 100 Tango racing in Saint-Tropez is the fabulous photo they used to illustrate the article, headline of which is Maxi Racing to the Max. Maxi yacht racing has long been the realm of big hardware and big action. And over the past several years, the turnout has been getting bigger too, by our FOSI and dear friend and neighbor, Kimball Livingston, past Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club, on the Sailing World website from just a few days ago. The article says, in part, it's an excerpt, of course, Maxi racing in the Med is hot. Call it a lesson in the value of getting your act together. The game has grown and changed dramatically and deliberately, with fleets of 50 as the new norm. 10 years ago, none of this was ensured. The Secretary General of the IMA, Andrew McIrvin, tells us, quote, rapid change was needed or it was going to just die, unquote. How it didn't just die is a story we're telling, and we lean on McIrvin for that. Quote, the International Maxi Association was originally a social club for the owners of 80-footers. That generation was going out as I was invited in, he says. Quote continues, the racing had categories, as you Brits would say, categories that were impossible to define, so people were always gaming it. What's a racer cruiser versus a cruiser racer? And could we ever have effective class splits based on hull length? This is what leadership is all about, and it's why I put this right after that last segment. To answer to that, as proven, is no, he says. Quote, the categories are now performance defined using a single number IRC rule that includes an accurate weight measurement, not a calculated weight. We photograph the interiors so we know who's stripping them out. The database includes 155 boats, and it has checks on people who fly too close to the rules. That gives other people the confidence to come out and race. Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, that is leadership. That's somebody coming in who knows their ass from their ankle, knows what they're doing. He's a FOSI, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, Bravo Zulu. And Bravo Zulu to Kimball Livingston, who wrote this article up because he was up at the Stag Cruise, and Andrew was our guest at the Stag Cruise, sat him down, did the interview, and this article has come out, and it is fabulous. I commend it to you. It's free. You can see it on sailingworld.com. It's up there now. Thanks again, Kimball Livingston, for that. Our FOSI focus for today. Cool stuff. Cool people. Show number 596 is winding down, but I do have, I got to relax a little bit here. Something that I have to ask you, is this correct or croutonic? It has nothing to do with sailing. It does have something to do. It has something to do with photography and what we like to do. But take a look at this. Is this correct or croutonic? Attaching a drone to your dog and walking it by remote control. I guess you could walk it up and down the street. You'd have to be in visual contact. Stay home to be safe, but don't forget your dog's happiness. Is that correct or croutonic? Get out and get some exercise. Walk your dog. Why else would you have a dog if you didn't want to walk it and get out and get some exercise? You think it would work with a greyhound, John Emmett is saying. Good luck doing that with my dog, Graham Sweeney. Hi, Graham, up in Scotland. And yell, Ted Ryman, brilliant. I'm getting a drone. Yeah, this is my point, Chris Exley. He's saying, how does that drone pick up after the dog? Because that's, nothing, as Julia knows, out here in front of the Beach Street Yacht Club, the dogs walk by, and when one of them pees on you, this is Julia's townhouse here, is one of the few that has nice bushes out in front of it. Her late great husband having owned it since '65, and Julia her gardener maintains the bushes, and the dogs love to come and pee on it. And once one dog pees on it, they all pee on it. And then they all like to poop in the sidewalk out in front, and some people don't pick it up. So for any of you watching that are the miscreants, I have a spy camera now. It's a security camera, but it's got a spy camera out front, and we know a person because we've seen it more than once. Let's come by, let the dog, maybe they don't like us. I don't know the guy, he doesn't know me. Poop in front of us, and then just keep on walking down to the Palace of Fine Arts. And I'm going to get him one way or another. Like we're going to get this non-sailing CEO. He's got to go. Croutonic. I saw someone walking 2 dogs from their car last week. Steve Crew. The dogs were loose and the owner was just following them down the road. One of the states, I think it may have even been Florida, tried to ban dogs from putting their heads out the window, saying it was bad for the dog. Come on, dogs love to do that. Smell, sniff. Every dog I've ever had or family's ever had love to put the head out the window and sniff. You try to ban that? I don't know. Maybe it's bad for the dog. Maybe it's otherwise bad. Croutonic period, Alan Long says. Walking my drone. Mary June agrees it's croutonic. Mary June Samansky. In Philadelphia. Ted's got to get a dog first, Graham Sweeney is saying. Okay, a nerd with too much time on their hands, Ed Worley. Couldn't agree more. I thought the saying was give your dog a bone, not a drone. Oh, that's pretty good, Jody. Not a drone. Okay. Stay home to be safe, but don't forget your dog's happiness. It's clearly croutonic. I don't say how you do anything else. The America's Cup, I didn't put it in here, but Tom Morris, Mozzie Sales in the UK, had a video. I commend it to you. Go to Google Mozzie, Mozzy, Mozzie Sales on YouTube. He's got a 14 or 15-minute video. And Julie Ahrens, you're not going to be happy about this, but his video goes into great detail suggesting that Emirates Team New Zealand's 2-boat program is breaking the breaking the rules, the America's Cup rules, the protocol. And I didn't have time to watch the whole thing and really think about it, so I didn't stick it in the show, but I commend it to you on the Mozzie, Mozzy Sales YouTube channel, Tom Morris. We've referred to him before. John Emmett's put me in touch. We're going to get him on the show at some point. He's doing good work. And let's see if this latest video from him is correct or croutonic, speaking of that. But here's a video from Alinghi. And I think this is the only America's Cup video worth watching today. And it's a brief but a cool one. Have a look.
With this boat, it's very different to other foiling boats. It's much bigger, lots of noise. It's crazy, it's fast, it's wild. Like a bell.
A lot of speed, a lot of water in the face, and yeah, it's great.
When it's up flying, it's an amazing feeling. When we have enough speed, we are able to add lift on the foil.
The foil is like a wing of a plane, and with the water going fast under, it's pushing the boat out of the water.
As soon as you take off, you gain a lot of speed, and the boat gets much smoother.
We can go faster with the foiling boat because we are touching less the water, so we have less friction.
Close to 100 kilometers. Sometimes we have to hold ourselves to the boat, not to...
Also, when you hit the water again, the impact is much harder than if you just stay in the water the whole time.
It's amazing. It's pretty much like flying a plane. A bit scary when we start to go really fast, but it's really good.
If their sailing team is half as good as their PR team is, they're going to, and again, Julie Aarons doesn't want to hear this. I still think these guys are going to be good. That is the best, simplest, coolest, cleanest explanation I've heard from anyone, anytime, about foiling and what it's like to ride on the boats, how it goes smooth when you get up by the water, what the crash down is like. A little hard because it's not, they're not, they are ESL, English second or third, in their case, probably third or fourth language. They probably all speak French, German, tell me what else. Cool video. Well done, Olingi. That gets us to the last leg. Lots of comments here. Stingray, Mozzie's latest video is very interesting. Yeah, I agree. I hope there is no fudgery, I think he means, F''ERY, going on with the AC40s and about what could be changing, in part because then the other team strategies to build LEQ 12s may get usurped or already did get usurped. Going to relax after today's show. Going to watch Drive to Survive, the F1 doco series on Netflix. There was also a comment, Baton Rouge A40, I guess he means AC40 testing with a LEQ less than or equal to 12. I've thought the same thing about that rule. Gordon Smith, Steve Gruber's going to have a look. Gordon Smith's comment was, Mozzie's vlog or their video raises some excellent questions I just watched. Okay, well, thanks for that, Gordon Smith and the rest of you. We're at the last leg here for show number 5. What is it, 96? And this video is finally out, or it will be. The documentary premieres on March 25th. This, of course, the long-awaited video about Buddy Melgus, the Wizard of Zenda, and here is the trailer.
He's a tremendous competitor.
Take the ball up right now.
Very fierce. Always on the attack.
If I'm going out, I'm going around the buoys and try to beat up on somebody else.
I mean, he's as tough as nails.
Buddy could do anything he wants. He's just that kind of talent.
He was indeed a superb sailor.
And I remember him slamming his fist on the deck and saying, damn it, I want this place.
There aren't a lot of sailors who have won the number of national and international championships that Buddy Melgus has.
I went off and sailed other classes just to test myself against the best sailors in the world.
Buddy gets into the Olympics in '72, and Buddy crushed him.
Just sailed the hell out of the boat, beat him like a borrowed mule. Absolutely masterful, convincing victory.
But there was an item that was still on Buddy's list, even though he wouldn't say it publicly, that was even bigger, the America's Cup. And coming out of a little tiny lake like Lake Geneva, how could he possibly compete?
We were stumbling along, and all of a sudden, Bill Koch's name came to pass.
Bill is a MIT PhD, vast fortune.
I say boat speed is science, sailing is an art. Buddy was the artist.
The Leonardo da Vinci of sailing.
The combination of the brilliance of Buddy Melgus and the technology of Bill Koch together, the art and science of sailing, it worked.
You gotta turn around and look at this.
We're always learning from him.
The time that we spent together, he was always teaching me something. Buddy is doing this at a higher level than anybody else.
He's got you call it a sixth sense.
And he's always 3 or 4 moves ahead.
And then he knew the wind had shifted. Off he goes, wham.
Buddy Melgus, in my view, is one of the greatest sailors of our age, by far.
He's the greatest sailor that the United States has ever produced.
I've sailed with all the best names in the sport. And Buddy's a cut above.
If the documentary, which is coming here at the end of the month, is half as good, you can see Dick Anderson here. He had a lot of that coverage. That's why Stingray, he was in there a couple of times. Plus, he had some interesting comments. If the documentary itself is half as good as this trailer was, I think we're in for a real treat. It's premiering on the 25th of March. The Melgus, The Wizard of Zenda, at the Annapolis Film Festival. Cool stuff. And hopefully we'll get the producer and maybe the film. They're doing private showings at different venues, clubs. You can reserve it, and I guess they're trying to raise money. But we'll see. We'll see if we can at some point get at least the director, producer, writer on here, and like we did with a couple of these other cool films. Okay, that brings us to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. We showed you this the other day.
Well, captains, we're back. Welcome to Whiskey Throttle. Now, if this isn't the cleanest, nicest, calmest day I've ever seen, now where this boat is here, it doesn't look like he's supposed to be in this situation. Now listen, I only know that because this guy that's about to run down the dock right here tells me that this ain't supposed to be happening. There he is. Looks like he hits it in reverse here and swings that ass end over to the right and doesn't realize that there's a walking bridge going across there. Listen to the sound of this right here. Yeah, get you some. Look at that thing right there. I bet you didn't know a boat could do that. Now, you might have heard of Sea Fox. Well, that's a new boat called Seesaw. Welcome to Credit Card Captain.
Okay, so I showed that on Friday's show, and I promised this other video, and that was courtesy of Tom McReynolds, some of you know, here from San Francisco. But this video, we found it thanks to Mark Husted, and it's hilarious. Equal opportunity. We're not just critical of motorboaters, sailors as well. They're below.
What you mean it's too late? Come on the wheel. I can try to jump on it. Mother flip, that gone, mate. Hey, that's why I said go. Shit. Hello. Yo! Hello.
Do you think he's downstairs sleeping?
Mother flip. That. Oh, we got the line now. And our prop. Yeah, but I can't stop it, but a boat can crash, right? Oh my God. Oh, shoot. Yo! Wait, that got hit. Boom. Mother flip.
I don't know why this is funny.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh shoot. Harbor control. Listen, the upper two on 16. Yo!
The guy comes up right about here.
No, hey, don't get mad. He grinding. He naked.
He's naked.
Naked, volleyball naked.
What do you think he was doing down there, sleeping? I don't think so. Now this is, I assume this is in the Caribbean. I don't know where it's from, but they go over the reef now. You talk about Crutonic. I think he's restocking the bilge. That's a funny name for his wife. Jody Shields. That may be the comment of the day.
Nobody?
He got around the island, though. Look at that. A visit to the Golden Rivet. Okay, you guys. I think he is down. Yeah, okay, what else?
That's a strong boat, but he's
That's a strong boat. Okay, enough of all this madness. Now, look, thanks, Mark Husted, for finding that and sending it to me. And can you see, it's hard to see, but can you see here on the back end where I've put a circle or I put a rectangle around it? Can you make out that? You know, it should be a courtesy. If they're in the Caribbean, they shouldn't be displaying the national ensign on the back of the boat. Maybe they should be if they're Canadian. They're trying not to be American, maybe, in case somebody thinks they're. But is that a Canadian flag or what? That's what it looks like to me. Anybody else? Undoubtedly a rebel, Clark Chapin is saying. Okay, well, if it is, Canada. I don't know why I got a kick out of it. And finally, because we're a drinking show with a sailing habit, me, Alexa, remind me to go to the gym. Alexa replies, I have added gin to your shopping list. And me, close enough. And that, the drinking show with a sailing habit, is courtesy of who else but Ted Ryman in the Republic of South Africa. Thanks for that, Ted, which gets us to the finish line. I love this light air photo by Dave Reed, the editor of Sailing World. In fact, a year ago or so, a couple of years ago, Newport Yacht Club's Frostbite series in front of their club in the northeast corner of the esteemed Newport, Rhode Island, the harbor there. Comments welcome, even in replay. Please do like, follow, and share. And as always, we invite you to become a patron. Help support us, patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. Appreciate that very much. And as we appreciate all these other folks, we love Julia. We're glad to hear that she's doing pretty well, I think. Haven't talked to her this morning. I've texted with her. But she is, as I said, she's still upstairs in the Commodore's suite, tending to her COVID. She tested positive again yesterday, but it's been 9 days, and most people go for what? 11, 12, 13 days before they test negative. She's doing pretty well. I hope my mother, who's just starting her COVID journey, Janice Davis in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we hope, Mom, you're doing well. And Steve Adkins, who's got another dose, and hope you're doing well, and anybody else. Thank you, everybody. And time for some sorbet for Julia. She's got some ice cream up there. And I think that ensign is upside down, John. The Beaver Yacht Club flag. Was it a bee? I don't know about that. Okay, that's it for us. Hope to see you on Friday. By the way, 2 weeks from today, the Crutonic Daylight Savings Time kicks back in here. Not that I like Daylight Savings Time. I just wish we would do one or the other. Either stay on Daylight Time or stay on Standard Time, but let's don't switch back and forth. And of course, we switch on to Daylight Time earlier than you do in Europe, and we stay on later than you do. So we're in this ugly period now coming up where we're on it. You're not. And down under, you're still on it before you go off. But next 2 weeks from today is the big switch for us. We are staying at 1300 Pacific, which will become 2 weeks from today, 1300 Pacific Daylight Time, which means it'll be 2000 UTC and then 2100 CET. But we'll cover all that just as a heads up. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and we hope you come back, join us on Friday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, have fun. Ciao for now.